Today what we're going to do, we're going to continue the lecture on floor plan. I'm going to tell you a few things about layers, line weights, and then what I want to do is like a question and answer session. That way everybody can get the questions out that they need about this, and we can do one big answer session. That way everybody hears, and I'm not doing each individual person. Let's talk about layers first. On this thing, typically the way I do, now I think I told y'all in the last lecture, every company has its own standards, has its own line weights, has its own layers, has all that. Their own symbols, everything. So what I'm going to tell you today doesn't necessarily mean this is what, if you are lucky enough to get with an engineering firm that does architectural out of it, that they will use. Okay? So, the way I do it, I try to keep it simple. I don't try to throw too many line weights into it. Now, I do use a lot of layers. If you look at the handout, if you open up the PDF of the floor plan, you see I try to do a layer for each individual piece. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean like I have a layer for a stove and I have a layer for a refrigerator and stuff like that. No, what I do is try to break it out in groups. You can see I have ones called kitchen appliances, one called doors, one called millwork, and try to keep everything under, where I can find it. If for some reason, because believe it or not, when you start inserting stuff into these drawings, a lot of blocks and stuff like that, eventually you're going to run into problems and you're going to want to isolate those problems. So if you have a lot of your stuff on certain layers, it helps. Now, line weights. Here's how I typically do my line weights. All walls, exterior, interior, I kind of put them all on the same layer. For the simple fact is, like instance, if you see on the PDF, it just says interior wall. Well, really, my interior walls are the same layer as my exterior walls. I usually set all those with a 0.5 line weight. A 0.5. Okay, because one, that's really what you want to stand out the most on the drawing, is where the walls are located. Because that's really, in all honesty, that is one of the most important things as far as the framer. All appliances, plumbing, shelving, millwork, clothes rods, dimensions, bubble callouts, all that I usually put at 0.3 millimeter. And what I mean by the bubble callouts is like the door and window callouts. So as you can see, really, there's two line weights in this whole floor plan. 0.5, 0.3. There is one more line weight that I generally put on here, and it's a 0.7. And what I use that as is for my slab line, okay? What that is wherever your slab falls out on your floor plan, I like to a lot of times put that 0.7 line weight. For example, if the slab on your plan you're doing now, the slab runs all the way around the outside, right? So really what I would do is just take that outside line of the floor plan and I would make it as a slab and I would put it at 0.7 millimeter. The reason I do that a lot of times is just so when your contractor or construction worker is looking at your plans and he comes over and he looks at your floor plans, he kind of gets an idea of exactly where his slab edges are, so he knows what's going to fall out where. As you can see, this one I didn't have it. I tried to keep it all one line weight for this project. But this slab actually runs around everywhere where you see the exterior wall. The slab actually has an edge around that entire area. Okay? So generally that's where I would put my 0.7. And then a lot of times I'll have my porches as 0.72 to show that's a slab edge also. Okay. So that's generally how I do it. Now, another thing I like to put on 0.5, a lot of times are these columns right here on the front porch. Yet again, because that is a main support area, so I like to use 0.7 or 0.5, I'm sorry, so that it stands out. I want it to stand out with the exterior walls. Now, I know a lot of you probably have questions as far as sizes of certain things, like the base, the square part of the fiberglass columns. Where did I get a washer and dryer from? All that kind of stuff. Believe it or not, all I did was take Google. I Googled 8-inch fiberglass columns, load-bearing columns with a cap and base. And what it does, it'll give you exact specs of what that base size is. Generally, they're mostly the same. Okay. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, if you're doing house plans, Google is going to be your best friend, or Bing, or whatever you use. Why? Because there's so many different products out there, and when you're drawing something, you want to get the specs off of it. Okay? So the washer and dryer. I just went out, got the specs off of a standard washer and dryer, and drew it, and put it in there. Design Center actually has a washer and dryer? I don't think so. Does it? Okay, Design Center has one. Now, same thing with this bathtubs that's in this house. If you actually go and take the one out of Design Center, it's too big. Believe it or not. Okay? So you actually, if you insert the one from Design Center, you need to go out, find out the specs on a standard bath shower combination and edit this symbol or edit the block. Matter of fact, I think, what did you say it was coming up as? 3'6"?
3'5" if you get the one off the AutoCAD.
3'5" off of AutoCAD, and I think it actually is supposed to be 32 inches. Is what a standard bathtub. So that's a big difference.
32 by 60.
Okay, this is why you have to be careful when you take stuff out of Design Center, that you actually know specs on them objects and you go and check it. So if you took the bathtub out of Design Center, I suggest you going in and edit it. Why? Why is that important? Well, so you can give a true representation of what's actually going to happen in that bathroom. Because believe it or not, let's see, that's 42 inches. 10 inches in a house is a lot. Okay, so if you're showing a bathtub that's 10 inches too big, that's a big difference when it comes to a house. All right, so let's talk about door symbols. The way I do mine and the way I think the book shows is a little bit different. I think the book actually shows where their door actually rotates out 90 degrees. I do mine 45 degrees for the simple fact is it gives me a little bit more room to put dimensions, interior dimensions and all that, so that they're not falling on top of my door symbols. I try my best to keep stuff out of my door symbols. Now, you can't always do that, but that's why a lot of times I do mine at 45 degrees. The width of the door, or the thickness that I have on these floor plans, if you actually Google it, there's two different sizes to an exterior door and to an interior door as far as thickness. But as far as my plans, I draw it to one size. I do it 1.5 inches thick. Okay? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's 1 3/8 to 1 3/4 is actually the thicknesses between exterior and interior doors. I just went in between, said 1.5, and I use it on all my doors. That's not that big of a deal as far as representation. Okay? Now, as far as your door and call-out symbols, as you can see, I used hexagons for my windows, circles for my doors. I use numbers for my doors and letters for my windows. Depending on where you work, that may be opposite. Okay, they may use hexagons for the doors. They may use letters for the doors. It really doesn't matter as long as whatever you do on the floor plan, you duplicate into your door and window schedule. All notes on here, I have at 0.3 millimeters. Okay, all these notes I have at 0.3 millimeters. Does everybody know what a hose bib is? The hose bib is the actual faucet on the outside of the house. Okay? That's very important because your plumber has to know where you want your faucets at. And believe it or not, I'm an overkill type person. Most plumbers are going to say 2 faucets on a house is plenty. But I hate to have to buy a 200 foot of hose just to get from the front of my house to where I need to go. So I always put 2 either on the back, or 1 on the back, 1 on one side, or I do like you see I have on this floor plan, and they're just both on the front on the same side. But I do try to put enough faucets so that depending on what kind of yard you have, you can get to things you need to get to. Okay? Let's see what else.
What about the blacked out spots, like for the windows? They're just like
Okay.
a thick line or something?
No, I'll show you. I'm going to get up close and show you what that is. And it just looks like this because it's on 8.5 by 11. How I draw my windows. Yet again, I do mine different than most of your architects. I don't show the windowsill like a lot of those do. I just basically show where the window location is. The way I do it, I just put a line in on each end to show you your length. This looks like it's black, but this is actually 2 separate lines. I put a 1-inch gap in between these 2 lines, or 1.25 inches or something like that. I think it's 1 inch. Just to show kind of like a window pane, the glass that's in the window. Okay?
Just an inch between the 2 lines, or they're on the sides?
Should be 1 inch in between these 2 lines, I think.
That line we say pretty
So that's 3.5 inches.
Just make it easy.
Yeah, I use. I think this is actually 1.25 inches. I think is what I do. Okay, 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches, somewhere in there. Yeah, it's not actually. It's two separate lines. It's just because it's at such a small scale. When it printed out, they just merged together. So this is actually 2 separate lines to show your window panes inside your window. These triangles right here, these are elevation callouts. Okay, these are elevation callouts. So basically what you're going to be responsible for once we get to it, you will actually have to draw an elevation of all the cabinetry. Okay? If you actually work in an architectural firm, they do show elevations of all cabinetry. Okay, that's part of the plans. That's part of your interior elevations. So you will have to show these callouts, triangle callouts, and eventually I'm going to make you draw the cabinet elevation. These room callouts, I do put these on 5mm line weight. And the size of the text, I hope I'm telling you this right. Hold on, let me back out. That's 1/4, that's 1/8. I'm pretty sure these are 3/16. These are 3/16. So whatever your scale is going to be, of course, that's going to you have to figure out the text height, what the actual height is of a 3/16. Let me see anything else that I can think of. All right, real quick, let's go over dimensions. Your first set of dimensions on a floor plan should hit everything. What I mean by that, you should start from the edge of the exterior wall, and I'm talking about exterior face of the stud wall. If you have brick on there, I still start with the exterior face of the stud wall. Because the brick, you don't need to really show, the brick ledge you'll show actually on the floor plan. I mean on the foundation plan. Okay? Of course, this house doesn't have brick because it's not showing any. But your first set of dimensions should always touch from the exterior face of the stud wall, all windows, doors, any kind of walls that are hitting the exterior wall all the way across. Then your second set of dimensions should strictly hit from exterior wall over to any walls hitting any interior walls hitting the exterior walls. And then your third dimension should always just be the overall dimension of that part of the floor plan. As you can see, I gave you the overall here, but I didn't come over here and give you the overall because they're exactly the same. If they're exactly the same, then you just leave it, just put one, don't duplicate it. Okay? Now you see over here, I did the same thing. I hit all windows, doors, exterior walls on the left-hand side of this floor plan. Then I came back and just hit exterior walls. Then I gave an overall of strictly the exterior walls, the main slab. On this side, I didn't give you the overall of the main slab. I gave you the overall of what? The entire thing. Okay? So you don't want to duplicate. Try not to duplicate anything. Of course, you want to hit as many of the walls that's touching exterior on the outside because you see how many dimensions that requires. And then on the inside, you come in and put whatever it was you didn't touch with the outside. Okay? Generally, I like to keep mine. If I'm going to do interior dimensions, I try, which it doesn't always work this way, but I do try to keep all my dimensions lined up. Okay? So, you want to keep the same thing. Basically, wherever you do a set of dimensions on the inside, you want to run all the way across the object and put all your dimensions there. That way it's noticeable. Your line of sight's the same all the way across. See, I could have easily took the 6 foot 0 1/4 dimension that's in bedroom 2 here and put it in the study. But I didn't do that because I wanted to keep it similar or close as possible to the line of sight of the dimensions that were in the master bedroom. Okay? So you want to try to do that. You want to keep things where it's all kind of in line. Let's talk about how do you figure the square footage of a house. Square footage, of course, we know is what? Length times width, right? Now, if brick was on this house, okay, if there was actually brick on this house, you have to figure the square footage from the outside of brick to the outside of brick. Even though it says living area, when you figure it, it has to be from outside of brick to outside of brick. Anybody know why? When you're figured on your county taxes, okay, your county taxes, they don't come in and look at what you drew on the plan. They actually come out and measure it. Guess where they're measuring from? Outside of brick to outside of brick. So that's what it's going to be classified as. So when you're drawing it, you also figure from outside of brick to outside of brick. And one of the other reasons you do this is because that adds a little bit extra money in your pocket when you're charging by the square footage. Okay? So, county makes you do it. You do it and put it on the plans. Okay. So on this one, you would basically, since it's if I'm not mistaken, I have this one set up to have siding on it, vinyl siding. Then you just figure exterior wall to exterior wall. Okay. Your porches, you see on the plan itself, I break it down, living area and then porches. That's kind of important. Okay. It's very important to figure it that way. Why? Because the living area at least gives a more accurate square footage to an AC guy. When he comes and looks at your set of plans, he looks at your living area square footage, he knows what to figure your AC off of. You don't want to go and say, well, the square footage of this house is 1,560 square foot, and an AC guy comes and figures that in, and then he goes and puts too big of a unit in your house. Guess what?
It's your wallet.
Yeah, now it's coming out of your wallet because, for one, you're paying for a bigger unit than you need, and two, what they call it, I think condensation starts building up in your house if you got too big of a unit. Okay? So, be very careful, and I'm going to tell you, there is a command in AutoCAD that actually help you figure this out. And I think it's called ADD. ADD. If you actually type that in, then you just go and pick on your corners that represents your living area, and it will literally give you exactly what the square footage is. So if you have a very cut up house, it helps. Okay, it really helps. Because then you can just use the add command, go around, pick every corner, and then they'll tell you exactly what the square footage is.
Or out of curiosity, if you had a house with like a balcony, would that count as living area?
No, that's
Or that's a
porch space. If you have one that's got a balcony, you call it porch balcony space. This one doesn't have it on it, but if it had a garage, the garage should also be separated out. It would say living area, garage, porches. Okay? Reason being, you do not put AC unit in a garage.
no.
So if you have the garage figured in as your living area, your square footage, yet again, you're going to have too big of a unit. Okay? So you want to break this out as much as possible. And I also do it if it's a two-story. On here, you would see first floor, you would see second floor, you would see garage, porches. It breaks it out even more. It lets the AC guy know how much do I need to put on the first floor, how much do I need to put on the second floor. So there is a method to my madness when you see these plans. You see down here in the notes, I do give a lot of different little notes. I suggest you put the same ones. And let's talk about what constitutes as a plumbing wall. You hear plumbing wall, that is not really everywhere where there's plumbing. A plumbing wall is strictly behind a toilet. Okay? A plumbing wall is strictly behind a toilet. Now, if you have a plumbing wall, generally it's 2 by 6. Okay, because you need that extra 2 inches. If you look on the floor plan, I actually tried to put, these bathtubs are actually backwards, but that's the way the owner wanted them. But I tried to put all of the plumbing in this one wall. Okay? The reason being is then you kind of help yourself out. Now I will tell you this. Because all the plumbing is in this one wall, 2 by 6 may not work. Okay? It may actually have to be furred out to a 2 by 8. What I mean by furred out is if there's too much plumbing in the wall and a plumber can't get all his stuff through there, what they'll do is go cut down a 2 by 4 straight down the middle, nail it up there, which gives them another 2 inches. Okay, to be able to run stuff through. So that may happen. Alright, I think that's all really I wanted to tell you.
Dim one, tech size.
Huh?
Tech size for the dim one.
Text size for all the dimensions? 1/8. Standard. All the dimensions are 1/8. All your little notes are 1/8. Little call outs as far as reference, dishwasher, all that's 1/8. Everything but the room titles is 1/8. The room titles will be 3/16, and your actual title of your drawing, which this one's floor plan, that's a 1/4. And the scale underneath it will be 1/8. Now we are going to put this on 11x17, and I'm almost positive it's not going to fit at a 1/4 inch scale. So we're probably going to have to bump this down to it's probably going to have to go down at least to a 3/16 inch equals a foot. Okay, 3/16 inch equals a foot. If we have to go smaller, I'll let you know, but as far as I think it may work at that. It may have to go down to 1/8, but we'll figure it out. Okay?
You, put the border on canvas.
No, I got to put the border up on canvas. I haven't got that up there yet. All right, let's go into the question and answering session. That way we can get that recorded also.
Is that stairs?
Say that again? Yes.
There standard through stairs?
Nope.
As far as step length, everything?
Nope. Stairs are always left up on the outside. On residential, stairs are always left up to basically the contractor and the owner to decide what they want. Because you may want a certain size until you get out there, and it may change up. If you're on commercial, you would actually have to call it all out. But residential, you leave it up to the owner and the contractor.
What's your shelving space for your closets?
Shelving on the closets.
Right there.
Huh?
So the note says right there, size and location, stairs to be.
Yeah.
on site.
Those are set up, if I'm not mistaken, 14 and 12. 14 inches and 12 inches.
Or like for the.
For the closet, the shelf, you see the solid line and the headline in the closet? One's 14, one's 12. The hidden line represents the rod, your clothes rod.
I like it. What, the design center? How do you get that?
If you're looking for the design center, you go to insert, the insert tab up on AutoCAD, and somewhere over there it should be design center.
On the doors, where it says 6 inches, is that when the door swings, or is that on both sides?
Where are you talking about?
Number 5 was the note.
Okay. Number 5 on the notes, on the drawing, states all doors that are not dimensioned will be the center of the room or start 6 inches off the wall, unless noted otherwise. 6 inches is to the end of the wall there, the break. Basically where the door hits the wall.
Door closes. Well, I'm asking, the 6 inches is from the wall where it connects.
From the
Swing.
base of the wall to the end of the wall.
Right.
Basically the cutout that you got to do for the door, from the face of the wall to your little threshold there is the 6 inches. Don't look at the swing part of it, look at the other end where it's actually connected to the wall. Yeah. Any other questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
door the door is, and it has that little 45-degree angle thing, if you just draw a circle to it.
All right. The question is, how do you get the circle that's on the door or the arc? The way I do it is I draw the door 1.5 inches thick by the length of what the actual door is supposed to be. Then I rotate it 45 degrees to make it at the 45-degree angle. Then I use the arc start in direction symbol or command, the arc start in direction. And then what you do is just click on the end of the wall, then click on the end of your door. If you turn your ortho on, it'll automatically give you that arc. But your ortho has to be on for it to work.
What line weight was doors and windows?
Doors and windows are 0.3 millimeter.
Doors, windows, plumbing, shelves, steel,
0.3. Everything except your walls and your slab edge and your columns will basically be 0.3.
Over.
All right, any other questions? I heard somebody say something about cabinetry.
What side is it gonna be? Side, the basic stuff is,
Oh, you talking about in the kitchen or in the bathroom?
both around.
Well, the kitchen, the bottom's at 24 inches from the wall. You see the hidden line in the kitchen, that's the 12 inches from the wall.
You want the cabinets to be the same all the way around, but
Yeah, they have to be. Okay, and then in your bathroom, I'm pretty sure, but you may want to check it when you draw it. I think these are 24 inches long. I think. But you'll know by once you get your if you draw your standard tub correct, and you get that toilet 17 inches off the center of the toilet 17 inches off the tub, and it's got to be 17 inches to the cabinet. So whatever that comes out to be.
I was trying to do that.
Cabinets in a bathroom are going to be standard. They're either going to be 24 inches, they're going to be 32 inches, or they're going to be 36 inches long. Okay, you can get those three sizes in bathroom cabinet. So 24, 32, or 36 inches long.
The linen closet dimension, that's 1'9".
The linen closet,
Yeah, 1.9.
yeah.
I can't see sometimes. because I got-
It looks like that.
Yeah, it kind of looks awkward.
It got me a couple times.
Yes, it's the 1'9". It should actually have a
that
leader.
extra little.
Yeah.
That 4 foot, dimension on the left side up there by the top window. That's the line you drew.
Hold on. We got 4 foot dimension from the left hand.
The left hand side of the top, where that top window is, it's doing the closet size, the 4 foot. The little line that's going with the 4 foot, is that something you
Yeah,
mentioned?
that's closet right there. No, it's not.
I'm still trying to figure out what you're talking about.
Center of the window, that is-
Man, y'all so lost on what I'm asking.
The center of
Is
the
that
window
something, is that just a line you drew?
Oh, okay.
Or is it part of
He's
the-
talking about on the dimension, on the outside dimension of the closet that's in between the study and bedroom 2. You see where it says closet, the left-hand side of the study there, and if you go straight out to the left, it has that dimension 2 foot 3.5. He asked, how did I get that line underneath the 2 foot 3.5? That is an actual command or a property. If you click on the 2 foot 3.5 dimension and you actually go into the change properties command, there is a command, I think it's under miscellaneous, that says, or a little tab under miscellaneous that says keep line with dimension line or add leader. Click the add leader and it'll put that little jot out in there. All right, Adrian.
I have a question about the window call-out, the door call-out symbols. Are those blocks that you have to create?
I just drew them. The text height is 1/8 of an inch. And I just basically created, if it was 1/8, I think I went with 3/16 inch bubbles to go around it, and then I just copied them all over the place. Any other questions?
What was the distance between your tub and your toilet?
Distance in between tub and toilet should be at least a minimum of 17 inches to the center. A minimum of 17 inches from the edge to the center of the toilet.
From the edge of the bathtub?
Edge of the bathtub to the center of your toilet. That's why I said it's so important to make sure the blocks that you put in here are the correct sizes to the specs of an actual tub and shower.
Is the ones that we can import, are they like adjustable?
Yes, when you put it in, here you can do it one of two ways. You can bring it in, double click on the block once you bring it in and edit it that way, or you can explode it, edit it, and then rename it wherever you want it to be named.
Can we save like things like that?
Yes, you can save it into a file on your jump drive and import it every time you want.
And those are the ones we get off the design thing and the insert tab.
Yes. If you take it off the design center, make sure that it is to the correct specs, because like I said, the bathtub that's on there is not correct.
Yeah, you said it needs to be like a 5 by
It's almost 10
32.
inches shorter in depth.
You said it's supposed to be 32 wide.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be a big difference. to
On
move
pretty
out
much
to the toilet.
everything you did. Like from this one, it's pulling on the inside of that wall to the outside of this one. On this one, it's pulling on the inside to the outside. Why are you doing it like that?
All right, he's asking about dimensions. Why am I pulling from outside to inside? Okay. Depending on, it just really all depends on where I start from. I've started on the backhand side, on the north side of this house. If I had a north arrow on here, it'd actually be the south side. But I started from the right-hand side when I started dimensioning, so I went from the outside to the inside face to the inside face to the outside. The reason you do this, and I don't give it to the center of the walls, is because if you're an actual builder and you're out there, it's almost impossible to pull a tape, because here's what you'd have to do. You'd have to pull a tape, mark it, then you'd have to let go of the end of the tape, bring it over there. Okay, if this is the center, let's see, a 2x4 is 3.5 inches or 1.5 inches thick, so that's 3/4 inch on each. That's too much trouble. So if you give them from outside to inside face, outside, all I do is grab the tape, just go down and start marking. Okay? That's why you'll see things in the book, and you'll even hear some architects, they still do it this way. They dimension to the center of the wall. The problem is half of them has never been out there in their life even building any of this. Okay? That's my whole problem with draftsmen and designers now, is because half of them has never been out there to do anything. Unless you've been out there, you really don't even know what to look for. Okay? So that's why actually I want it to be where if you're actually ever hired as a draftsman, you got to spend 6 months in the field.
Really?
That's what I would love companies to do. But you can't get them to do that. Okay? But that's one of the reasons why I dimension the way I do. It's because it's easier on the builder. Another thing I do different than what architects do, and all of you people that's in Revit, you see it. When you draw a wall, what are you including on the wall? Sheetrock, air spaces. I mean, you do that too on here, but sheetrock, you're doing the plywood, you're doing all that. As you can see, none of that's on here. Because when a builder goes to start building this, what is he going to have? The framing and the slab. He's not going to have sheetrock already attached to the studs when he goes to put this up. So that's why when I dimension, it's always to the face of the studs. Never to sheetrock, never to the center, always to the face of the studs.
On the closet shelves in the office, say they were 18 and
14 and 12.
14.
Yep. 14 and 12 on the closet rods and shelving. Yes, be careful, because if I give you a dimension on a wall that it looks like it may be halfway between, most likely it's not halfway in between. This one right here, I think, tells you a 6 foot 0 1/4, and I think this one is actually a little wider.
It's whatever's left over.
It's what's left over because
You get the 12
this is a bedroom. This is a study. Who's going to need it more, the bedroom or the study? The bedroom, so I gave it a little bit more space. Okay. Any other questions? Depth of the vanity, you might want to look it up. I think in a bathroom, the vanity is only 22 inches. I think in a bathroom it's only 22, but in the kitchen it's 24.
$22.
22 inches thick. Deep. Not
From the wall to
wall to the front.
You're showing the countertop, and that's like 30.
Yeah, your countertop's going to be like an inch or two
You're
larger.
not gonna see your underneath, you're only gonna see your over. Right now.
We show the cabinetry. We don't really show the countertop.
Oh, so this-
It's not Revit, I guess.
And the uppers are like 18.
12. 12 up top, 24 on the bottom. All right, any other questions?
The kitchen cabinets, like the top kitchen cabinets, like they have those other cutoffs that are marked, just kind of guesstimate them. Or
Yeah, you just stopping them. Basically, you just stopping them a
even
couple
on
inches on each side of the
same-
window. Yeah, he asked about the hidden lines on the kitchen cabinets. What's the distance they're stopped? How you see them cut into the wall on the top? You have to cut them in when it hits the window. And what you got to figure in when it hits the window is what kind of trim are you thinking about. So I usually try to stop them at least about 4 inches or so from the window. Because if you got trim that's 3 inches wide, that leaves a little extra room.
What is that? That's the dotted lines from the window?
That's the dotted lines from the window in the kitchen.
40.
Yeah, about 4 inches from the window, 6 inches, something like that.
What did you say again? It was the bottom cabinets, top cabinets, it's 24 and 12, right?
24 and 12. Yeah, you can go 4 to 6 inches from the window with your start your hidden line. That gives you enough space for your window and your trim and.
That's the roof on the porch, the hidden line.
All right, he's talking about the dotted line on the porch. That is actually handrails, and it's actually missing the call-out.
All right.
That are actually showing the handrails that's going on this porch. Because,
That's a different kind of line. Todd.
yeah, that's a dotted line. That's not a hidden. That's a dot dash or something like that. That is to show that because if you're a certain distance off the ground, I think it's 24 inches or 2 foot 6 inches. If you're 2 foot 6 inches, 2 foot 6 inches off the ground, you have to have handrails.
Okay, and this, dimension between, handrail or the edge of the slab.
International Building Code.
Yeah, what's the distance off the edge of the slab?
For what?
To the like 4 inches or 6.
To the center of the column.
The 4 inches.
No, it's going to be more than that. Your column may be 8 inches round, but your base is going to be bigger. So you got to go out on Google and find out what the base size is for a fiberglass column. I think it's 10 1/4 or somewhere around there.
So the circle is 8 inches?
The circle is 8 inches, but the base is bigger.
How, right,
Like 3 foot.
2'6"
What's
to
the
3
distance
foot
on
off.
that shelf in the pantry?
Shelf in the pantry, same thing, about 14 to 18 inches, whatever you want to put in there.
The shelf in the pantry, bottom line.
Usually shelving, yet again, you just show that they need to have it in there, and the contractor and the owner decides what they want. Because it may not be a wood shelf, they actually it may even not even be a clothes rod. Now they have all those little pieces that you put together, that's all the wired shelving.
It's just for the visual.
So it's whatever, you just show that they needs to have it, some type. All right, any other questions? I will tell you this is something I didn't tell you last week. An AC closet. Okay, this one's fine, but if you're dealing with a bigger house, because this is only 1,320 living, so the AC unit is going to be fairly small. It'll probably be a 2-ton, maybe 2.5, 3. But if you're dealing with a lot bigger square footage house, you need to make real sure that this is at least 3 foot deep. The AC closet needs to be 3 foot deep. No, because you get into a bigger unit and the unit is thicker. Believe me, I ran into that mistake in my own house.
Didn't make the AC closet big enough.
Now that just means if this house was bigger, then I would actually have to move. I'd have to give more space. It'd have to just be deeper. Okay? My house, mine was 2 foot 8 or 9 inches, and I needed like 2 more inches. So I had to take the AC unit and put it up in the attic, which is fine because it worked out.
Are you gonna want this schedule on this sheet or another sheet?
All right. For me, your door and window schedule will go on the same sheet as your floor plan. Okay? But if you are working for a national architect doing commercial buildings, they actually have an entire separate sheet for the door and window schedules, because what they do is not only do they call out the door and window schedule, but then they turn around and you actually have to draw every single door, every type of door. Okay, you got to draw every type of window and actually show what it looks like. You got to call out the dimensions of it. You got to show the trim. So if you're working for an actual architect, you're going to have to get a lot more detailed than what I'm going to make you get deep. I just tell you to do the call out and they can, because half the time, believe it or not, they'll tell you one thing and by the time they order and buy it, it's a totally different thing. Okay? You may put in there masonite doors and they'll turn around and go and put solid wood. Okay? You just never know. All right? Now, architectural, commercial style buildings, whatever the architect puts on the plans, better be what they use, or they got to use something of the greater or equal value. And they got to prove it. They got to send in the specs, have it okayed, and all that kind of stuff. So residential and commercial is a lot different. I think in architectural too, y'all going to get into a little bit of commercial. I think.
You gonna teach that?
No.
It's quick to say that.
So, no, I'm loaded down next semester. I can't pick that one up. All right, any other questions? I think we basically told you everything between the 2 videos about floor plans that I can think of right now. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you when we get to foundations, that's where things can be a lot different depending on what you're doing. And we're going to go through a lot. I'm going to try to give several handouts showing you types of situations you might run into and that kind of stuff. Because I can go ahead and tell you right now, this house was designed to sit on a chain wall. Okay? which means it has CMU block underneath the edges of this house.
Just on every corner you come up.
All the way around. It's an actual wall all the way around. All right, any other questions? If not, I'm going to stop the recording. This is due next week.
30th, right?
Whatever next week is. Yeah, the 30th. Because I will lecture on foundation plans next week. And I will assign that, and you only have a week to do that one. No, actually, well, I will lecture on foundation plans and foundation details next week. It's going to take you a little bit to draw the details, I promise. Okay. I'm going to give you what they look like because they're already all drawn. And I'm just going to create a handout with them on it. And then I'm going to give you other scenarios, like if it was a regular just slab, not a chain wall. I'm going to give you scenarios if it was pier instead of chain wall. And I'm going to give you all the different scenarios you might run into. Because when it comes to the final project in here, when we get to that, I'm just, like I said before, all I'm going to do is hand you the floor plan. I'm going to hand you 1 or 2 elevations. I'm going to hand you the site plan. And you're going to do the rest. Nope.
What you said? I think it was working.
Okay. So you'll have, I'm probably going to give you about 4 to 5 weeks for the final. Huh? Well, because you will be required when we get to the final, you will have to have a floor plan fully done, windows, doors, schedules. You'll have to have electrical, HVAC, all 4 elevations, foundation plans, foundation details, cabinet elevations. You're going to have every bit of that. So you're going to have not only this final, but you'll have McGee's finals and all that on top of it.
Sure you don't want to give us 2 months?
So you'll have about 4 or 5 weeks to do it. If you've talked to anybody that's ever taken my civil drafting class, if you've talked to anybody that's ever taken my civil drafting class, you know I'm not joking when I say you better not wait till the last minute. I think Scotty, you took it, didn't you? When I say I'm giving you 4 to 5 weeks, that don't mean you can wait till the last week and finish it. I gave them 2 weeks to finish that final. A lot of them waited till the last week and they didn't finish.
That parking lot?
Yes.
You gonna give it to them again?
Yes.
Are we gonna take that class?
You'll see.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay. That final exam in civil is like 20 hours of working time, if not more. So I don't play around when I give you a final exam. All right. Any questions? All right.